welcome to the Mike on Much podcast. I am your host, Mike Vierman. We have our friend and trusted producer, Max Kerman here. We also have our pop culture aficionado, Shane Cunningham. Guys, the Super Bowl was yesterday. We're recording this on the Monday after Super Bowl Sunday. Lots went on. We had a halftime performance by The Weeknd on The Weeknd. There's always an abundance of commercials, big-time commercials with big budgets that air in the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about all that, all things Super Bowl, including, I guess, the game. Was anybody into the game itself?
Yeah, I was super into the game. I love Tom Brady. I was rooting for the Bucks. I was rooting for Tom Brady really more than anything. So, I like Patrick Mahomes, and Kansas City, fine city, whatever. But, I was rooting for Tampa. But we can get to that whenever we want.
Well, why not now? Yeah, what are you trying to avoid, Max?
Well, I didn't want to. I didn't want to shoehorn anything in before you wanted to say hello to Shane. Maybe Shane, how are you? How's your weekend?
I didn't watch the game. But
Really?
I did watch all the ads. Yeah, I didn't watch the game. I had to do some editing work. But I had it on in the background, and then I would pop out periodically just to see if Tom Brady was winning, because I think it's very cool that at his age he could win another Super Bowl.
Do you think he's getting hotter than he's ever been?
Yeah. And I think because he's so concerned about being a machine now, because at an advanced age you have to be more concerned about your health, that he's just so looking the part of this football player. Whereas when I watched a documentary on him this morning, and at the beginning of his career, he didn't look like a football player.
What do you look like?
Just a schlub.
Huh. Not a schlub.
Well, wasn't he like third round draft? Like he wasn't highly drafted.
He was the last pick in the 6th round.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's the most incredible story ever. Like in terms of a draft pick turning into be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, the thing about the quarterback position, which I think is unique compared to a lot of other sports, is that so much of it is sort of like your game planning and your sort of like ability to process a lot of information really quickly and then describe that to all your teammates. Because I think when, the NFL Combine is a series of like athletic tests, basically, that monitor like how high you can jump, how fast you can run, how far you can throw.
He performed the worst ever.
The worst. So he was like 568 out of 568. Mm-hmm. But it kind of just reminds me of like if you're ever, I don't know, playing pickup basketball or something, and there's just a guy who just knows where to be on the court and it's just like ruining everybody. And you're like, how is this old dude killing us right now?
Yeah, old man game. They play with their minds.
It's like Nikolai, the Joker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in basketball. Yeah, Jokic. Also, I think I don't play squash at all, but I think squash, there's a lot of strategy there too, where basically you don't have to be that athletic to be good at squash. If you can just kind of plant yourself in an established position in the middle of the court, you can ruin guys that are a lot more athletic than you. Anyway, I just think that is really cool about about Tom Brady, is that there's all these guys, all these NFL quarterbacks that have come and gone that are way more athletic than him, that can throw the ball way further, can rush way farther, and they flame out in like 3 years. And because once you get to the pros, you're playing against the best of the best, and those tricks might have worked in college for these quarterbacks, but not in the pros. And Brady's figured it out over and over again.
Well, his secret, cool. According to this documentary, was that he loves the moment, so he does not crack under pressure, whereas a lot of other quarterbacks can't take it the way he can.
I think another sort of like part of his story is, he found like he became almost like religious about his nutrition, which you hear about these guys. You hear like LeBron spends $1 million a year of his own money on his body and his upkeep, and that's how these guys can play into their late 30s and 40s if you're Brady. I think that also is why he looks great. You used to always hear these stories about Jared Leto. I think, Shane, you were telling me that Jared Leto said he never ate anything that tastes good. And that's like why his skin is always amazing, why he's like super fit. And I'm just always like, I'm going to get to an age where like I really crack down on my nutrition and then my skin will be glowing. And I literally have been saying that for 5 years. And I don't know if it's going to happen, but I can hold out hope. But yeah, that's kind of a big part of the story. Do you guys also feel like to live like that, it's a lot easier if you're a multimillionaire that really just has time to put in?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but undeniable.
I will say, though, that, we'll get into the commercials in a second. There's a bunch of really rich people that have everything at their disposal that kind of look like shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's actually kind of like the fun thing about these ads. Is like, okay, how are people aging, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny when people hate Tom Brady, to me. It's like, why would you hate? Like, what is there to not like about Tom Brady? Other than, I guess, the fact that he has everything. Is this a jealousy thing? Is that why people don't like Tom Brady?
I hated the Patriots. I didn't hate Tom. I didn't like the Patriots for a long time. And I think, they say like die the hero or live long enough to become the villain. I think anybody that's as successful as a Brady or a LeBron is just going to naturally have a certain amount of people that are contrarians that are just like, fuck that guy. Although Jordan doesn't seem to have a lot.
You want to root for the underdog too.
Yeah, totally.
But he's
totally.
kind of the underdog.
That's what I'm saying. He's at that perfect thing now. Now he's the underdog.
He lived long enough to become the hero again.
Yeah.
It's flipped back. He was the hero, then he became the villain, and then he lived long enough to become an old hero again. I was rooting for him. I wanted that story.
I guess the Trump thing for liberals is annoying because he's sort of palled up with Trump at various times, and then he sort of distanced himself. I think he didn't go to the White House one year that they won a Super Bowl. Yeah. But he's always
I don't think his wife would let him. That was the whole story.
Is that it?
They were golf buddies. I think that's where it kind of ended. Do you all think he looks better now than he ever has?
Yeah, I think he looks amazing. Great. Hair implants? Do you think he has hair implants?
He's always had weird hair. He has always had weird hair, and it's looking better with age. So that you might be onto something there, Max. Yeah. I think he almost to me looks. Because he's on these crazy sort of nutrition kick, he looks a lot more svelte. But maybe that's just age or the way that your body responds.
Well, there's that one photo of him I think taken in his third year press photo that he looks like Shrek almost. His jaws look really big. It's maybe just a weird angle or something, or maybe he was 10 pounds heavy or something. But he just looks like he has kind of a different face. It's interesting to see. People's faces morph over the years, especially Brady, because you have the same shot every year taken around the same time. So that was kind of fun to look at. But yeah, I think he's hot as fuck.
Do you guys think so say you're a Patriots fan and Brady won all these 6 championships with you, and it's he's yours, he's of Boston and sort of part of that lore, Larry Bird and all these, Ray Bork and Bobby Orr and all these sort of Boston legends. And then it's they have this money dispute where he's in his 40s and he's kind of, you guys remember Kobe was coming up on a contract and he was old. And they gave him a $40 million deal, 2 years at $20 million or something. People were like, you're paying old Kobe Bryant that when you're not going anywhere? You're not going to get a championship at this point. And the Lakers were kind of we paid him for the legacy. We paid him for the championships he did deliver. And they did right by Kobe, and the fans have always sort of loved it. When it came to Brady, I think he was kind of looking for that deal, but also he was I'm not done. He's I put more work in than some of the younger guys. Just pay me what I'm worth. And it would seem that the Patriots were I think we're going to go in a different direction. So, you do you, and we'll do us. And then Brady goes out and he wins the fucking Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is incredible. How do you think Patriot fans feel today? Do you think they were rooting against Brady for the first time in their lives?
I think they're rooting for Brady. Honestly, I think they probably saw how this season went and what I loved about this outcome happening was that the big question, and by the way, for any of our listeners who don't give one fuck about the NFL, we promise to try to make this relatable to you. And I think what is awesome about this story is basically the franchise was given a decision. Do we want to stick with this guy or do we want to stick with our coach, Bill Belichick, who is, one of the most successful coaches of all time, and trust his instincts? And Belichick, who famously is sort of the least sort of player compassionate coach in the league. He'll just cut anybody. He'll trade anybody. He does not have any personal, real relationships with anybody. He's willing to part with his quarterback because he just simply doesn't think he's good enough. He has no sentimental sort of attachment to this guy who brought him 6 Super Bowls. So then we're in the situation all year long where it's okay, was it the system? Was it the coach, Bill Belichick, or was it the quarterback? And normally, when there's a face-off like that, the chances of getting a real outcome that is definitive is unlikely, because a definitive outcome would be either the Patriots win the Super Bowl without Brady, or Brady wins the Super Bowl without Belichick and the Pats. And the chances of either of those two things happening are actually quite small, right? Those are 2 teams in a league of 32. So the fact that the Pats sort of flamed out and had a bad season, a definitively bad season, it wasn't like they had some bad luck that didn't let them get to the Super Bowl, and then Brady wins the Super Bowl, is the most definitive answer to that question that anybody could have hoped for. And I think that's fucking amazing. And I think a lot of Pats fans can only go, oh, you know what? Fuck Belichick. We put our trust in the head coach and he made the wrong decision, and we can only have respect for Brady. You have to be a lunatic if you're a Pats fan to be fuck Tom Brady. Do you know what I mean? He didn't want to go anywhere. He just wanted to be paid appropriately, and he proved his worth this whole season long.
But don't you think it diminishes the 6 championships just a little bit? It's not unique to you anymore. I heard on another podcast, it's like having a divorce and then watching him be wildly happy with his new wife. You know what I mean? Sure. And it's yes, you have the family, you have the kids together, but now they have a kid. You know what I mean? And it's kind of I don't know. I have no idea. Like, I was trying to think, if I was a Patriots fan, how would I feel watching Brady do this? Would I be rooting for him to sort of like happy he made it, but I don't really want him to win a ring because that's what he did with us, you know? Or would I be like, no, you know what? He deserves it. He's the greatest. So I was interested to know what a Patriot fan might think about that situation. I just didn't know what they're rooting for, but I guess I lean what you're saying, Max, is they probably wanted to see him succeed, and then they can kind of bitch about the franchise and Belichick. What do you think, Shaney? What would you want as a fan?
Well, I think if, let's say, Kyle Lowry switched teams and started playing for the Rockets, if the Raptors were no longer in it, you'd want the piece of the Raptors, the closest thing to the Raptors to win the championship, which would be Lowry in this situation. Raptors are out of the playoffs. It's like, oh, he's still kind of a Raptor, even though he's on another team. Let's go Rockets, I would say.
100% I would want that for Lowry, but I think the thing about Brady and the Patriots is they're dealing with history, with GOAT status, with like, they think that, you know, they want to be considered the greatest franchise of all time. You know what I mean? So it's like legacy stuff. Like, we're talking Jordan, LeBron type level, where it's like, I think it messes with their narrative. They're perfectly tie a bow on it. It's kind of like Jordan with the Wizards. If the Wizards won it all, it changes the Bulls narrative just slightly. Anyway, I find it fascinating, and but yeah, I could see them being excited for Brady.
And with the Kobe thing, when they gave him the $40 million, don't you think from a business side, whether they were winning or losing, that still makes sense because he draws so many more people to that arena, and ultimately that's what it is. It's a business, right?
Yeah. So why? Like, I can't believe they didn't pay Brady. Like Max says, they were more like worshiping at the sort of the altar of Bill Belichick, who clearly didn't want to pay Brady, but just for the jersey sales alone and to tie the legacy up nicely, like, I cannot believe that they let him walk. That's insane.
Yeah, I know they have to employ a lot more players on an NFL team, but it just it's just ludicrous the way the contracts work in the NFL and how disposable everybody is. It's so much based around the team, I guess, more than the individual player. Because, you know, a lot of the contracts aren't even guaranteed. Players can be cut and not paid all the time. And so, like, the fact that, like, in the NBA, there's a certain respect being shown to one of the all-time greats for a franchise like Kobe Bryant, but it doesn't get extended in football. Like, you see that all the time. Like, you know, Brett Favre, wasn't there a similar thing with him in Green Bay? That, you know, at the end, Peyton Manning, you know, went to Denver. It's like, because basically the team's like, I don't want to do it. So it's just, I guess it's just a different mindset in football compared to a sport like basketball. But Brady, because he's so disciplined all the time, but I like seeing him when he shows a little bit of personality and has a bit of a sense of humor. Did you see this thing that he did at the end of the regular season with Antonio? Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown.
So basically, Antonio Brown, who's been a real issue for a lot of teams, there's a lot of sort of like behavioral stuff going on with him. He signed with Tampa Bay because Brady, I think, wanted him because he's an excellent receiver. And going into the last game, if he, I think, had like 15 catches on the season, he had basically had to hit a number. He was due for a $250,000 bonus. Did you see this?
No.
So basically, at the end of the game, like meaningless, it was a meaningless part of the game. The game had already been decided. There's like a minute and a half left. Brady gives him 3 shovel passes that didn't amount to really any yards, but got him the 3 extra receiving catches. Wow. And he got his bonus. And I was like, all right, I like Brady for that. Kind of a little fuck you to management. Get the man paid. It's awesome.
Yeah, I did you guys see that clip of Brady after he beat who did he play? Who did they play to get to the Super Bowl? It was another big famous quarterback.
Aaron Rodgers.
No. Oh, sorry, you're right. Okay, the game before that, another famous quarterback.
Oh, Drew Brees.
Thank you. Yeah. Somebody got a footage of Drew Brees. So the game has been decided. Brady and the Buccaneers win, but it's like long after the game is over, and somebody just has like film almost from like the stands, and it's Drew Brees and his wife and his 2 little kids, and the kids are kind of running around on the field, and they got a football and they're messing around, and then Brady comes like walking out like the old veteran. He's got like his gym bag, and he comes out and he gives Drew Brees a hug, and kind of like these old school vets. And this might be, I think, Brees' last year. They're both kind of
I think it was his last game probably.
And they're just sitting there and they're talking. You can't hear what they're saying. And then Tom starts playing catch with Brees' kid. Like he's going to receive the ball, and so he's kind of having a catch, and he's having a chat with Brees. And then they kind of finally have a final embrace. And then like Tom Brady just like picks up his gym bag and like walks back toward the tunnel and like waves. And it was kind of like this really amazing, like nice personal moment of like these 2 great quarterbacks quarterbacks kind of having this farewell, and it kind of just humanized them. They just looked like two dads at the park where one's playing catch with the other guy's kid, and it was a cool moment. And I'm not even a big NFL fan. I don't even care about the NFL, but you follow the sort of more interesting stuff. And Brady's obviously, he exceeds football fame.
Did you see the clip of them celebrating in the change room after they'd won the Super Bowl? And then everyone's obviously jumping up and down, and Tom Brady's just packing his shit in his locker. And they're like, look at Tom. This guy's a legend. He doesn't even give a shit. And it zooms in on him, and he's just casually packing his locker. It was pretty funny.
What's funny? I was thinking about how, like, I hate carrying anything. And whenever I see a person much more famous than me carrying anything, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you carrying anything? It's like Shawn Mendes in his documentary. Did you watch the Shawn Mendes documentary? He's carrying his guitar with him everywhere he goes. I don't know if we talked about this, but like into his condo. But it might look cool for a few seconds, but carry an acoustic guitar case more than half a city block, and you're like, oh, God damn, I wish I didn't have to carry this.
You must get spotted way more.
Yeah.
Because it's like Jordan carrying a basketball around everywhere. It's like, hey, that's what you do.
But it's like Brady having to pack his own shit. Like, what are we talking about? Like, he's got to have a guy for that. Just be like, put on the change of things. Like, that's got to be in the budget. That's all I'm saying. If I'm Tom Brady,
he must love it. He's a process guy.
Or he's got weird stuff and he's embarrassed and he doesn't want anyone else to know.
He always brings 5 Playboys to every game.
It's my routine.
What's your secret, Tom? That's for me to know.
A clear mind.
A clear mind. Oh man,
yeah, that's good. So, should we talk about the commercials or should we talk?
Well, let's do the halftime show first.
The halftime show. Okay, let's talk about the halftime show. Did you watch the halftime show, Shane? Pop culture aficionado.
I did. I knew we were going to talk about it, so I walked out. I missed the first bit, but I rewound it and watched it again.
Nice. Okay.
Hit us, Shaney. What were your thoughts?
Well, let's set it up. We got The Weeknd.
Yeah, The Weeknd. Obviously, we're performing in the times of COVID, so the grandiose nature maybe couldn't be as much, where they'll usually have extras or they mess with the crowd. They'll put color sequences. You've seen Coldplay do crazy stuff. You've seen like all of these sort of grandiose performances. So The Weeknd would be a little bit limited, but he still went out and did the damn thing. But so with all that in mind, what would you guys think?
I find The Weeknd a little bit awkward. I don't know what it is. There's something about him that isn't cool, which for me is kind of cool because he almost reminds me of how I would be out there. Like feeling a little bit like I don't know what to do with my hands. How do I dance if I'm not a natural dancer? So he has like 2 Michael Jackson-esque moves that he would do, and he would just lean on those.
It felt like he learned that one move. He's like, I'm good. Like he went to one dancing class. And like I know the feeling. And then you're like, that'll probably get me through.
And I felt like he did another thing I would do, which is just throw a lot of money at the problem to make it go away. Like, oh, the Super Bowl, it's going to be so huge. Oh my goodness, the camera's just going to be on me. I will pay money out of my own pocket, which he did. He paid millions out of his own. He took no money for this, paid all this money for all those extras. And I don't really know if I was blown away by it. Maybe it's just because I'm not a spectacle person. So when I see something on TV, I just kind of sit there bored still because, I don't like musicals. I don't care about fireworks. All the dancing didn't really impress me. I found when he went into that weird house of mirrors, and the camera was distorted, the fisheye lens, it looked a little unintentionally funny. And it seemed very uncool, that part.
That's the thing that went viral today, where everybody's like posting memes like, when I get my camera roll back after my toddler plays with it, or, like it's all.
There's another good, very local reference, me in the path. Trying to take the path when it's cold. So in Toronto, there's like the underground.
There's been that's the thing that basically, that's what you pay the $6 million if you're him for, is one of those things.
It's a good, I was thinking about just like the way the internet makes you think about your performances and like basically like what are going to be the memeable moments that are going to be shared the most. And I wonder like if he knew, okay, the thing that will probably be shared is this thing. Phoebe Bridgers, who's one of my favorite singer-songwriters, she just played on SNL, and she's an amazing singer-songwriter.
I know exactly what you're going to talk about because I didn't watch SNL till the next day, but my Twitter timeline was literally just the moment I think you're going to talk about.
Yeah, so Phoebe Bridgers is a pretty sort of solemn singer-songwriter, and her performances, it was funny, I was texting my friend Tim from Buffalo, and he was like, can we talk about how Phoebe Bridgers had like the best SNL performance in years? Tim listens to the pod, so shout out to Tim. I was like, well, like I personally loved it, but it was also like the most likely performance you'd see at South by Southwest on SNL in years. Like you just haven't seen like just a really straight up indie rock band that you'd see at the Horseshoe playing on that stage. You know what I mean? Because everything in culture has gone either more urban or electronic, or there's dancing involved. It was kind of just like her and her band. But anyway, for her second performance, she did the thing where she smashed her guitar. Is that what you were going to say,
Absolutely,
Mike?
Yeah.
And that ultimately got so much attention on the performance, because if she hadn't done that, I don't think it would have been talked about on the internet like much at all. But because there's that gif of her hitting the guitar over and over and over again on her monitor, people talked about it. So I wonder if The Weeknd knew that the mirror thing was going to be the thing that people would make jokes about, because you almost want to have something that people are making fun of or making fun with. You know what I mean? Like it seems to be like one of the big goals.
So it's like that Nathan Fielder episode where he's purposely trying to get people to do graffiti. Like it's like that, but meme version.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Nathan Fielder world. It's like it's like you intentionally.
Do you know that episode?
I can't forget. I've seen it, but I forget. Remind me.
Oh, so he'd be like holding his hands out like this with his mouth open, and then knowing people would draw dicks coming in his mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a billboard, and and he's holding his hands out, and people are putting dicks in his hands, and his mouth is open.
Yeah, and then he would be like trying to catch them being bad on camera, and then like reform them.
Well, there's a real art to provoking engagement by doing something that might or might not be intentionally bad. You know what I mean? Like I think the Phoebe Bridgers thing was interesting because I think a lot of people she didn't really smash the guitar with a lot. It looked like she was having trouble breaking the guitar. It all kind of looked like
it's a Dan Electric guitar, which is like kind of like a big heavy piece of it's not like an acoustic guitar that's going to break really quickly. It's like really densely made.
And she was kind of going in slow motion, and so it didn't really have like the force that when people have smashed their guitars, like when Nirvana did it on SNL, there was like this primal sort of like thing to it.
She's little, and it's like a really heavy guitar.
And I don't know if I feel like there was sparks coming out of the monitor, which means that they'd had it like prepped for that, which kind of like, whether like guitar smashing in the past is part of the show or not, it always felt like the spontaneous act of like rage or whatever you're trying to get out of yourself.
And it felt like somebody was going to be upset afterwards.
Yeah. Whereas
hey, we didn't agree to that, or like, and it's like, oh, we're bad boys though.
And then when Phoebe did it, and this was some of the discourse I saw on Twitter, was it's like people for some reason had a problem with her smashing the guitar. Like, I don't know if it's like old school music bros that are like, this was like lame or whatever. But then people started defending her, like, you know what I mean? Her smash, like if you have a problem with her smashing guitar, you have bigger problems and all that, blah, 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 blah. And then it did get me thinking though about like, could you talk about sort of the performative nature of smashing guitar, or are you a hater for even talking about how it looked awkward? Did you not think it looked awkward?
It did look a little bit awkward. And then it was actually another revealing moment is Jason Isbell, who's a singer-songwriter, sort of, from her world a little bit. I don't know if their paths have crossed before. He just tweeted, it was an $85 guitar, guys, like chill out. So kind of making a joke about that. And then she responded to his tweet saying, I told the Dan Electro people that I was going to do it, and they gave me a thumbs up, and they encouraged it. And so she even talked about it in this sort of like kind of ironic way, where it wasn't like in the Kurt Cobain.
It was
thing,
a sponsored break in a way.
Yeah, right.
That's the world we're living in.
Yeah,
the ultimate act of rebellion.
I got paid to do that and go viral.
Brought to you by
Dan Electro. But anyway, back to The Weeknd. I thought the Super Bowl is always a really interesting performance because it is the widest possible audience. If you're watching the Country Music Awards, who the fans are. If you're watching the VMAs, you generally have a sense of the demographic that are tuning in. But the Super Bowl is a funny one because it is so wide, and every person of every age and background is watching the show. And that's why I thought The Weeknd was an interesting choice, because like, you know, Beyonce kind of makes sense, or Justin Timberlake makes sense, or like or U2 or Springsteen, like all these acts that are sort of like really a part of the American like history of like popular music and culture. Like, you know, it all, but like The Weeknd, he seems to be sort of newer, and also, even though he's a big pop star, seems to live in a much smaller demographic, I think. And also, we don't really know him as a public person. His whole persona is that he's a very mysterious person. So everybody else, you kind of get a sense of like, oh, I know who Chris Martin is, or, you know, like I know these people. The Weeknd, I think some people are probably familiar with the songs, but they probably didn't know him that well as a personality. So I was interested to see, you know, what the reaction was. And I was talking to your brother Greg about it, and Greg loved it. Greg thought it was like very cool and less of a spectacle and more of like an arty performance, and that appealed to somebody like Greg, who's got good taste. But I wonder, did you guys see any like feedback about like what, I don't know, middle America thought of it? And I know that's a pretty wide audience in itself, because obviously there's a lot of young people in middle America that would like The Weeknd. But I find that part to be interesting, to see like, how do you connect with as many people as possible?
It reminded me of the Bruno Mars halftime show, but Bruno's just more of a natural like entertainer. He's a dancer. He's a multi-instrumentalist. So there was more stuff he could do, but it reminded me of Bruno in the sense that it's like, I was like, did The Weeknd have enough songs to do a medley here? Like, it's like, does he have enough big songs, you know? And when Bruno did his, as he's going through them, you go, Bruno does have enough songs to do like a 6-song medley. And to my surprise, I felt like The Weeknd did. He's got like the massive one, right? The I Can't Feel My Face. That's the thing that made him from sort of like a popular artist into an international, you know, phenomenon. Like that song, you could go anywhere in the world, Brazil, Paris, whatever, and you'd get in an Uber and that song would be playing. That's sort of the level that he was at. But then the other ones, you know, he's had like 2 consequently after that are like big hits. I thought he was fine on the medleys, or on the medley. Like I was like, these are big enough songs that, to your question, Max, reach middle America. Those songs are played in Ubers in Kentucky or Kansas or wherever, right? But to Shane's point about the kind of awkwardness is, it's like he's not Bruno Mars, so he's just kind of up there singing his hits awkwardly. And to Greg's point, I thought the art direction, like the stage and stuff, I thought it was lacking the grandiose, and I just felt like I was watching like Chicago, like the play or something, like all that jazz, like, you know what I mean? It was just kind of like it felt like a flat or like a 3D set, and I was just kind of like, I'm like, I feel like he's suffering a bit, because if you're someone like him that isn't a super like dynamic performer, you almost need the spectacle to help you. You know?
Yeah. Once he got onto the field, I thought it got better, because at the very end of the performance, because he was surrounded by a bunch of people.
When like all the Jabberwockies came out.
Yeah. Oh, this is another thought I had. Do you think whatever that was, like this sort of like dystopia, like this like post-apocalyptic future, whatever those, do you think that was a case of the creative being shaped by the fact that they all had to wear masks? Like, it's like, well, they have to wear masks, so let's just write this weird kind of like post-apocalyptic thing where they're in
Weren't they wearing bandages on their face?
Yeah, but you almost it was almost like you had to create something to incorporate the mask or something. Like, I wondered if it was like reverse engineered because they just had to wear masks no matter what.
I wanted it to be weirder though.
Yeah, well,
I saw at a press conference where I think it was Tyrone from eTalk. He was like, "Oh, do you have any secret message that you're going to be giving to the audience?" He's like, "Well, I don't like saying what the message is, but I'm sure a lot of people will find meaning in what I'm about to do out there." So I thought it was going to be very weird and artsy, and then I saw it, and it just felt like Jabberwockies with the mummy mask on. You know,
that was on the vision board, like in his bedroom as he's been preparing. For
Jabberwockies, mummy mask. That's all.
Well, I thought that. I thought you're right. Like it was one dimensional, like the backdrop, and you know, if you go to a big concert these days, you can see some pretty like elaborate stuff. So again, like he didn't need to like learn how to fully dance, but he could have probably used the space a little bit more to have like more action going around him. Like the people behind him were doing a lot of like arm movements and pretending to play the violin at points and stuff like that. Like I thought that was good, but I could have used a little bit more around him, like within 6 feet of him in some cases. But you're totally right. Like, it feels like pop star. What also makes The Weeknd interesting or unique is that for people in his lane of like pop music star, they're usually good dancers. Like think about JT, Justin Timberlake, Justin Bieber, Bruno Mars. Like those guys don't necessarily, I mean, Bruno Mars plays instruments. He can kind of do everything. But like what makes those guys like, the next Michael Jackson is that they can dance. The Weeknd can't dance. If you go to the band category, at least they're rocking out on a piano or guitar. The Weeknd kind of doesn't do anything other than just have like an amazing voice. So I thought it was good. I was captivated by the whole thing, and I was excited as a Canadian because obviously he's such a success story. But I don't know. I thought.
Do you think he regrets putting all of his own money into it?
It's like anything. After it's done, he's probably sitting there a little sweaty after the performance, and he's like, "Shit, $6 million." Yeah.
Then the accountant
didn't feel the way I thought it would.
All right. Just waiting for that $8 million e-transfer.
It didn't feel
they
the way
come
I
to
thought
collect
it would.
Immediately.
But anyway, shouts to the Weeknd. Yeah, big weekend for Canadians on. I didn't mean to say that on TV because Dan Levy obviously hosted SNL too, so that was pretty awesome. Yeah,
and this shows you how popular like Dan Levy has come as like a Canadian success story. I haven't even watched the last couple SNLs; they've just been sitting on my PVR. But Danica on Sunday was like, "Hey, do you want to watch SNL?" And we haven't done that together in like a while, not this season at all. And she was interested because Dan Levy was sort of all over everything, and it was like you said, a Canadian success story. Did you watch the episode?
How was it? No,
pretty good. Yeah, Dan was good.
He made I like that he made a reference to people finally hearing about Schitt's Creek. I find his career arc to be like awesomely inspiring, because it's like. Yeah. Obviously, up here in Canada, it's been a big deal, but only in the last year and a half, like all of America has found out about it. So I thought that was pretty cool. His style of comedy he's obviously like a funny guy and a great writer and everything. So it was cool to see him like taking on like different characters as you do on SNL. I thought he did a great job.
Yeah, I thought I just think it's really hard to put on a show during COVID because it's like, like half the skits kind of incorporate COVID somehow. And how many times can you make that joke? And also I found that the crowd was kind of like subdued. Like, I don't know if it's because they're all wearing masks, but there were some skits where I was like cackling, like I was laughing out loud at some points and the crowd was giving them nothing, which then makes it seem like the skit's not good enough or it's not succeeding. But I'm like, no, this sketch is good. And if they had like a crowd with a pulse, it would be slaying. Like I found it very sort of, it's a weird environment to make comedy. And I found, and I haven't watched it this season yet. So that was my first time.
Did you see the on Weekend Update? You know those YouTube brothers that listen, they're twins that listen to music for the first time. Have you those guys, Shane?
I saw the In the Air Tonight one went viral, right? Where they hear the Phil Collins song for the first time.
So basically, these two guys, I think I want to say they're from Atlanta. They're two brothers. They're probably like 19 or whatever. And basically they sit in front of their like computer screen and they listen to a song that's like a classic song, In the Air by Phil Collins. And they go, but they're listening to it for the first time. So they're usually really enthusiastic about this. And it could be from any genre. And they've gotten so famous to the point where Barack Obama, in promoting his book, put out a playlist of songs, and he wanted that were political in nature. So, because obviously his book's about politics, and he did an interview with the brothers talking about like his playlist, and he got them to listen to these songs. Anyway, it's a very like my mom sends it to me. My mom's like, these guys are the greatest. Anyway, SNL on Weekend Update, they had the brothers like Keenan and who's the other guy?
Chris Redd, former pod guy.
Chris Redd, yeah. So they're acting as the brothers, but basically they're playing the most like famous songs of all time. Like what were they like?
They did the theme song to Friends. They're like, "Ooh, this hits." You know what I mean? Like Baby Shark, the Meow Mix theme song, like just the most like generic.
Yeah, and then so they're basically like, wait a second, you don't know these songs? Like that was sort of the premise of it. Shane's not laughing. Shane, you have to watch it and get more context, but it's good. That was the best.
A weird pop-up just popped up my screen. Yeah.
Anyway, check out that episode. Good episode. Dan Levy's sick. Phoebe Bridgers also very good.
Canadians. My last question before we go to the commercials, Max, when you watch the Super Bowl performance, do you start thinking, what would I do in that situation? How would I build out mine?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I was really that deep into it last night thinking about Arkells doing it, but it does make me think about times we've like performed on the Junos or the Much Music Video Awards where we think about like something basically needs to change every, I don't know, 15 to 25 seconds. Like the thing needs to keep building and progressing, because if you're a band and you're just, standing there with your guitar, I think it gets pretty boring pretty quickly. So I mean, oh God, I don't have a good answer for you right now, but I definitely like that. The art of making like a live television performance is much different than a concert. Much different.
Yeah.
And so,
would you know what 4 songs or 5 songs you would pick?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, Leather Jacket, Knocking at the Door. What else would we do? Relentless. Hand-me-downs. I don't. What would you say?
Pub Crawl. Could be
Pub
Epic.
Crawl?
You could get a choir out there and everything.
I don't know. And hopefully we'll get to do something like that one of these days. But let's talk about the commercials.
Let's do it. So, as we know, commercials are almost a big a deal to the Super Bowl as the actual game is. And there was no shortage of commercials this year. But yeah, the reason that these commercials are so sort of like epic is because, one, it costs so much money to have it in the game. 2, it's probably going to be the most your spot is going to be seen ever. So it's like a prime showcase spot. And it also means if you got a huge budget, it's like now's the time to throw it at it. So that's how you see all these stars come out of the woodwork. They reunited Wayne and Garth, Mike Myers and Dana Carvey for Uber Eats. We see like big time athletes sort of end up in spots. We see musicians. We see all sorts of stuff. Did anything stand out to you guys? Is there a spot in particular? Because we could go through a bunch of them. I know we watched all the spots today.
Yeah, we're using vulture.com and their roundup of all the 2021 Super Bowl commercials as a reference point. So if you're listening at home and you want to follow along with what the fuck we're talking about, I think go to that right now. But yeah, we could kind of maybe briefly touch on the one starting from the top. Like, I got it pulled up right here, like the Wayne's World Uber Eats one. Should we do that?
Let's do Wayne's World first. Yeah. Let's just do the list. Mm-hmm. Okay, here's a question. I've been seeing this spot now. It came like they started teasing it like a week ago.
And by the way, I want to say before you get to that, Mike, you and Shane are ad men essentially. So this is sort of your expertise. I love talking to you guys about this because you guys think about this kind of shit all day long. Carry on.
Yeah, like the Monday after Super Bowl is usually an awesome day in the office because this is what we're doing. We're just sitting around talking about what worked, what didn't work, what was particularly clever. But for this Wayne and Garth spot for Uber Eats, every time I watch it, I have one of 2 thoughts. I either think like about my own mortality because I'm like, shit, they're getting old. And I'm like, man, they look kind of rough. And then I'll see it the next day and I go, you know what? They look pretty good. And I can't decide if they look good or they look bad. And so I wanted to ask you, Shane, because I know you think about these things too.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think Garth makes me worry about my own mortality less than Wayne.
So you think Mike Myers looks pretty good?
No. Yeah, I'm trying to word this as nice as possible. I'm saying the opposite of what you think, Mike, because Wayne looks worse. Wayne looks worse than Garth.
Then why does Garth make you think about your own mortality more then?
I said Garth makes me worry about it less.
Oh, less? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
That was such a weird way of saying it.
Sorry.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't want to be mean in case they're listening, but it is hard, and they are old because they're older, and that is something that can be a little bit scary for me to see when in my mind they're just these guys perpetually in their early 30s or whatever it is. So to see them in their 60s dressed up like this is a little jarring to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even them. It's just the reality situation, and there is something nice, I guess. Nostalgia obviously is like one of the sort of most lucrative businesses right now, and getting these people back together and sort of there's something kind of nice about it. And the feeling like, and I saw Wayne's World 2 in theaters. So it's not about them. It's about me, like I'm like, shit, like, wow, time is passing, even though you don't see yourself necessarily getting older. Then you see them, you're like, oh, that's a very clear marker because like you said, Shane, they live in your mind a certain way.
Mm-hmm. And for me, nostalgia is just being the same, not being different. So I liked everything to be captured in time. Like when I go back and play a video game I played when I was 15 or 10, it's the same. So when something's different, it doesn't have that same nostalgic feeling that I'm craving all the time. Like I don't know, Domino's Pizza, having that, there's a nostalgia associated with it, and it tastes the same as it always did when I was a kid. But now it's a different uncomfortable feeling for me.
Well, there's also this point of no return that we're just all naturally like if you think about pop culture, the way that we consume it, and especially like for people of our generation, it's like think about like Ghostbusters came out in 1984, I think. And so it's like when we watch Ghostbusters, it just looks like Ghostbusters. But those guys, that's how old they were in 1984. That being said, if they had made a sequel, even as early as like 2000 or something, the guys still would have looked somewhat in the same realm. But if you make a Ghostbusters now, Bill Murray's he's an old man. It just looks different. Mm-hmm. And what we're seeing is these guys that were younger than the Ghostbusters guys, like Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, Adam Sandler, like Adam Sandler's still in this pocket where he looks like Adam Sandler, and he's kind of always around. So we age with him. But at some point, Adam Sandler's just going to cross a point of no return, and we're going to go, oh, Adam Sandler's like an old man now, and he's going to be in a movie doing his, dabba doobie, but he's going to be 65 years old. And it's just weird to see guys like Wayne and Garth get there because they're so kind of eternally youthful for us, and to us, we're eternally youthful. Anyway, I don't think Uber Eats intended to like give me like an existential crisis, but their spot fucking spun me out, man.
It's on the board.
Yeah, it's on their vision board.
This is Mike Veerman.
Eat local, give people an existential crisis about their age.
Because when you're in crisis, you tend to eat more, Mike, I find.
I do.
Maybe that was it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was generally a trend with a lot of these commercials, that you see these celebrities that you haven't seen in a while, and you either go, oh, pretty good, or you go, eh. Like, Stanley from The Office, like he showed up in one of the commercials, and like, I don't know if he's looking as good as he could. And it was just like, I feel like that happened over and over again, where it's just like, I wonder if that's going to be a conversation with these ad agencies, because it's like, obviously you get the rush of going, did you know that we're getting Mike Myers and, Dana Carvey back together for this? This is like a huge win. And I guess like if the point is to get headlines and clicks, then they're doing their job. But it is sort of unsettling in some cases to see these.
You got me thinking, because that spot with dude from The Office also had John Travolta in it, dancing with his daughter, doing a TikTok.
Yeah. What was that even for? It's for like some lawn care or some shit?
Yeah. Martha Stewart's in it. They had a bunch of celebs. But I think John Travolta looks awesome. And here's the thing. It's because he doesn't look, he's not trying to look like Saturday Night Fever John Travolta. He's not trying to look like Grease John Travolta. He looks like old man John Travolta in a nice leather jacket with his beard, with his head shaved. I almost think if you had done Wayne and Garth, aged, not in the same clothes, but in like a boardroom, but still kind of the character traits, that's a more clever execution. You know what I'm saying? Whereas, I think Shane nailed it. It's almost weird to see them dressing up. You know what I mean? It actually puts a spotlight on the time that's passed. Whereas like John Travolta, when I was watching, I'm like, he looks great. Like, again, because he's not trying to look how he used to look. What do you think of the random celebs interacting, like with Cardi B's at the end of the Wayne's World thing for Uber Eats? I find sometimes it works, and then sometimes it just feels like really shoehorned in and awkward. I didn't love Cardi B in that spot. And well, they
were paying tribute to the old Wayne's World joke of, I thought it worked. What
was the joke? What was the joke?
The joke is they say, "Oh, we would never use celebrity endorsements." Isn't that right, Cardi B? And they're making light of what they did on the first Wayne's World.
Yeah. Okay.
And she has that vocal thing she does, which worked with whatever their tagline was. It fit with her vocal tagline. But it is weird, though, that it was all about local, like support local was the angle they took when Uber Eats gets criticized a lot for taking money from local businesses. So that I thought could have been potentially dangerous waters to be in.
Yeah.
It could have backfired huge, but yeah.
What are some other spots?
Did you guys see the Lenny Kravitz spot, which I thought was by far the funniest one?
Stella Artois.
Oh yeah, that was unintentionally funny though, right?
Of course, but it opens with "We're born with 2.5 billion heartbeats," and then the camera switches. He's like, "We're all billionaires."
Billionaires.
that means we're all billionaires. When everyone's going through so much right now, yeah. Oh my God. I was laughing so hard, and then of course one of the best parts is finding it online and reading the comments, but the comments are shut off.
I thought the another really actually intentionally funny one was Amazon's Sexy Alexa with Michael B. Jordan. Did you watch that one?
That was great.
That was, I think, the best one. I think if I had to choose my favorite,
and risque
and fucking hilarious though.
Oh man, the line about it getting wet. in that spot. That was when I was like, wow, they're going for it. I can't believe that line got in there.
I recommend you check out that one. The one I think I hated the most was the Cheetos with Shaggy. I thought that was so badly conceived on every level. So basically, it's Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher, who, by the way, are both like funny, self-aware people. Like I've heard them both in interviews, and they're both also like very like hands-on kinds of people. Like it's not like Ashton Kutcher is just a pretty face. Like he's been involved in like lots of different kinds of productions. He's an entrepreneur. Mila Kunis obviously has a background in comedy. And just the premise of like Shaggy being there and singing his stupid song, and Mila Kunis like having Cheetos all over her face, like, and they both looked a little older too, which kind of took me out of it because I guess I haven't seen them in a minute. I just thought, I was just like, really, this is what we're going with? Like, a commercial doesn't need to make me like laugh out loud. It just should bring me some kind of like joy and like excitement about the product. This made me do none of those things. What did you think of that commercial?
I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it
Really?
was kind of funny. Yeah. Shaggy brings a smile to my face. I was surprised that Ashton went for kind of the accent when he went for singing the song, because he was in trouble a few years ago for doing a Pop Chips commercial where he went full Indian accent, and then it felt like he was dipping into that world again with the accent. But I thought the end of the commercial where Ashton Kutcher is actually fooled by the "it wasn't me" excuse, Shaggy goes, "That's the first time I've ever seen that work." I thought that was not a bad button.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
My thing with that spot, and I kind of watched it more from a professional sort of standpoint, where I was like, okay, so the premise is the premise, the setup is the setup. Like whoever wrote it is like, okay, we're gonna use this song, we're gonna blah blah blah. I just think it was professionally handled. Like I'd be like it's just, it looks good, it's competent, the performances are fine for the premise, but yeah. So I don't think it's great, but I think that it was like very professional spot.
How much did you think about, Mike, the fingers and how they're owning that it really fucks up your fingers in an annoying way?
Yeah, it actually made me uncomfortable to see the Cheetos on the walls and shit like that. Like I was like, if
Too
I was
much.
the brand consultant, I'd be like, but they kind of have to commit to that, I guess, to show that, you know, the evidence that she's been eating the Cheetos. But I was like, I did not like seeing the Cheetos on the wall. It's not like a positive
the
for the
fingers.
product.
I know they have to do it. It just felt that it was caked on too much, and that really disgusts me.
Yeah,
Did you guys see the Sam Adams one?
the Boston one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's down there. Basically, you can explain it, Mike.
Well, the premise of the spot is, I guess, you know how like Budweiser uses those like beautiful like Clydesdales horses and stuff. So the spot kind of opens, I think, where you're kind of thinking it might be one of those Bud spots, and it's actually a play on another commercial they had, I think. But anyway, someone lifts a latch up where these like horses are like attached to a buggy, and then these horses go buck and they go crazy and they knocking people through glass windows and all this shit. And then you realize it's like three Boston bros, and the guy's holding the pin. He's like, I didn't expect that to happen. And they got the Boston accents, and he's like, don't tell my mom. And it's like, you know,
it's like your cousin from Boston did. Anyway, basically, anytime there's any Boston related humor, it is automatically like a 7 out of 10 immediately. And it starts there. So I like that commercial. I just love Boston stuff.
Speaking of celeb spots, what did you guys think of the doppelganger spot for Michelob Ultra with Don Cheadle? Did you guys see that one?
I saw that one.
That one tricked me.
You actually thought it was the celebs?
I had to watch it. Well, I didn't key in until the Stallone spoke. And I went, is that? I go, that's not Stallone. But I did think he was with Lucy Liu. I was so confused. I thought it was Megan Fox, like, until it gets to the end.
It really
and
looked like Megan Fox, yeah.
I couldn't believe, like, so it really confused me. And then I go through it, like, again, like, I kind of get it by the end, and then I go through it again. I go, oh, that's actually, it's kind of interesting because it fucks with you in a way that makes you take notice. Like, it's unsettling almost, because your brain just assumes that it's all these famous people, and then it's not. I kind of liked that angle.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It was one of those things where if the correlation to the product was better, it would have been more clever. But so it was cool. It just didn't seem that tie in that there's other fake seltzers or whatever it was trying to say.
No, I agree. Yeah, it's like almost like they had this great premise, and then they just attached any product to it.
Yeah, it's like in our meetings when Randall's like, not for this, but save it and we'll use it for something bigger. It felt like that.
Well, the other Michelob commercial, which is black and white, and it starts with Serena Williams, and it has, I think it's like Take a Walk on the Wild Side, so it kind of has like cool, moody music, and it's like all this like black and white. It's very emotional, and then it was basically like the idea is just like the important moments is like being joyful, I guess. But I just didn't think that really related that much to Michelob Ultra. Do you know what I mean? It felt a little shoehorned in there.
Well, that ends with the question. The question is like, do we win because it makes us happy, or are we happy because we win? Whatever that final line was like this kind of interesting like thesis, and I'm like,
so bullshit.
Yeah, I was like, okay. Did you know what's one I liked, like as far as silly? Like we've talked about this a lot, Shane and I, like the old spicification of ads that has been happening now for the last decade, where it's like absurd for the sake of absurd, and you see it all the time. There was a spot here, I didn't have it written down, but it was for some sort of body wash, and it's just like weird. It's like that's just this kind of brand of advertising now. Sometimes it can work, but usually when you're watching it, you're like, oh, just like, it's almost like you write by numbers with those ads. But as far as like a weird execution visually that I actually thought worked was the McConaughey 3D Doritos chip ad.
Oh, yeah.
I like that ad. Like that's one of those like high concept ads where someone goes in and they go, okay, so he's going to be flat like in a 3D world and blah, 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 blah. And you kind of watch him go through this very somber journey until he finds the 3D chip. And the punchline got me when he like, it inflates him inside of the chip machine, like the vending machine. I was just like, that's a great spot. McConaughey delivered it, and it's kind of a weird high concept spot that I thought they did well.
Mm-hmm. You laughed out loud at that, Mike.
A chortle. One of those.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You?
Yeah. I didn't think it was bad.
Yeah. Did any bad ones? So Max told us the bad one that stood out. Shane, do you have any bad ones you didn't like?
Well, the Lenny Kravitz one is the funniest bad one. One that stood out in a good way to me was the Let's Grab a Beer Anheuser-Busch one. That was my favorite one.
I like that one.
So that one caught me off guard because I watched like 7 ones I absolutely thought were not funny or did not like. And then I saw that one. It really grabbed me. And then I looked it up. David Fincher directed it.
Wow. I don't know if I saw the Bush one. I'll watch it after.
It's awesome. It's done so well. I found it so affecting. Like it made me emotional.
Yeah, that's the one where it's like grabbing a beer is not just about grabbing a beer. Like it's about spending time with people.
Again, the idea is so like nothing, but the way they did it and executed was very high level.
Oh, totally. And as a man who loves grabbing a beer with friends, it really hit me in the old eyes.
Yeah, I thought you would like it the most, Mike.
I had a couple others that superseded that one, but I did like that one.
What did you like, Mike?
Well, there's the Toyota spot with Jessica Lange, the swimmer that doesn't have, she's missing her legs. She had to be amputated as a small age. So it's like this visually very sort of like intense spot where it's like she's swimming through her life story where she's like a 5-year-old being adopted from like overseas, I think. And they tell the mother that, she's going to have to, her legs are going to have to be amputated. Like, do you still want to adopt the baby? And she's like, yes, I do. And then you see she's like this, Olympic swimmer now. It just like, I don't know if it's because I had a couple of beers last night and I was feeling it this morning, but when I was watching it this morning, I got very emotional watching that spot. I don't know if it's because I have a kid, but that one I thought was excellent visually and like sentiment. Also, this one caught me out of nowhere. Do you guys know Indeed, what Indeed is? So it's like this job finding service. We have like monster.ca here in Canada. So in this spot, they basically have a bunch of people that are either like out of work, they're starting out, whatever. And it's just like, I thought that the copy, do you remember this spot, Shane, the one I'm talking about? This one about finding jobs, how we help find jobs. They did this really cool thing, which I've enjoyed a lot. They actually did this in a recent Apple Plus ad where they kind of like do the text across the screen and then they change the text. So like the spot opens and it just says, we help get jobs. And it's like a little girl gets into bed with her mom and kind of gives her a kiss. You can tell the mom's out of work and she's looking for work. And then the space between the we help get jobs, it says we help the ones starting out get jobs, right? And you see somebody who's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and they want their spot. And then the starting out changes and it says we help the ones starting over get jobs. You can tell it's somebody who's been like let go and had this sort of devastating moment. And I just think this point in time, the way that everybody's sort of the uncertainty of employment and the pandemic, I just thought the spot like really hit and was like handled amazing. Like I thought it was a very emotional spot.
Well, the T-Mobile ads, which we talked about in the pod group a little bit,
yeah,
those were so good. The Tom Brady talking to Gronk and then having bad reception and that changing your life outcome. What was the other one based on?
It was Gwen Stefani asking Adam Levine who she should date 3 years ago, and then
that was so good.
And then Blake Shelton walks in. You were going to say something, Shane?
No, I wanted to hear the commercial because I hadn't seen that one.
Did
you see the Brady Gronk one?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
such an amazing premise. They took the premise and they did the exact same thing where Gwen Stefani gets on the phone with Adam Levine. She's like, Adam, I'm so like, I had a terrible dating experience. I want to date somebody who's cultured, who's blah, blah, blah. And she kind of says all these things. The phone breaks up. So the message comes through to Adam that it's a guy that's like not cultured, that's intimidated by women, strong women, blah, blah, blah. And then like Blake Shelton comes walking by with like a whole thing of like chicken wings. He's like, chicken wings. And then Adam Levine's like, I got the guy for you. And then, she's waiting there for the blind date. And then Blake walks in and he's wearing stirrups, like spurs, like cowboy boots. And this was the funniest line in the spot where she's like, you're wearing like cowboy boots? He's like, yeah. She's like, would you ride a horse here? And he's like, yeah.
But the reason why it's great is that obviously they got married. So like using real life, going in hard on that. Obviously the Brady Gronk is like going in hard on like, let's go to Florida, get out of retirement and play together. And then like, yeah, because the most unlikely romance obviously is between Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton, and so it's like using real life as a premise for spotty cell phone service is great.
And these spots, they have those buttons, like those jokes, like, and I thought the joke in the Gronk Brady one was great. Like they hit the button, the one I'm talking about, Shane. You just shake your head.
Oh, where he asked the dad where his football pants were. The mom was, Mom, where's my football pants?
Where are my football pants? I was like, that makes the spot. Like you send him out on a high note. That was great.
Yeah,
Gronk's legit funny. I would put him in any spot 100%. I could.
Yeah, that one felt the most like an SNL level skit or something like that.
Yeah, Brady's good in that too.
Yeah, Brady's really good too.
What'd you guys think of the Squarespace 5 to 9 directed by Damien Chazelle? So they get Dolly Parton to record a different version of 9 to 5, which is 5 to 9, about like your grind, your after work grind, and it's like kind of like a dance spot. Damien, of course, directed La La Land. It's he's. And I'd actually heard about this spot before I saw it today because there was kind of like there seems to be like some pushback at the idea of glorifying your second career these days, because they're like, the reason that people are sort of like, you can either frame it as it's a passion that you do on the side, or you frame it as like the hustle, a way to like make money on the side. And there's this kind of huge divide right now where it's like, the reason everybody has these side hustles is because they're not making enough in their day jobs, like in their regular jobs, because we don't pay people enough, minimum wage, all this stuff. So it's kind of like this big thing where you glorify the side hustle, but people shouldn't have to do a side hustle to make ends meet. The other side of that argument is, well, actually, no, people, that start their own businesses, it is like a passion that they're trying to make work on the side. But so people were like, now Dolly Parton's re-recording the song to glorify the side hustle, blah, 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 blah. So that's all I kept thinking when I was watching the spot, which was otherwise kind of unremarkable.
Yeah, I didn't really think too much about it.
Yeah, the best part of it was just the idea itself, which is switching around 9 to 5 from 5 to 9, the famous
and getting
song.
Dolly involved as well, obviously.
Yeah, after that, it wasn't super remarkable.
Robin Hood, we talked about them because of GameStop. They had a spot called everybody saying anyone can become an investor, but they booked it in December. So they obviously they kept the spot, but everybody sees the spot and like, actually not everyone can become an investor. If you invest in GameStop, you're going to get your account frozen. So that was bad timing for them. Do you guys have any more?
Nope.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Mike. I had one more. I just wanted. Did you see the P.T. Anderson spot, the Life Hands You Lemon spot for Celsius?
Yes.
Oh, I saw that one. Yeah.
I didn't know that was a PT spot.
No, he didn't direct it, but they were ripping off Magnolia with the frogs raining down. Like the
Oh,
sound
I
design
see.
and everything.
That felt like a really expensive commercial. Sometimes you go like, it's like, oh God, like all those different scenes, and it looked like real lemons were dropping out of the sky.
The sound design is what really did it. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was impressive.
Yeah, very cool. But I checked the comments section. I was wondering, is this just going to be people saying, oh, nice idea, but PT did it first? And everyone else was crediting Cloudy with the Chance of Meatballs, which I found interesting.
That's just the way society goes, brother. More people probably saw Cloudy than Magnolia, especially people on YouTube these days.
So to wrap this up, I want to give a recommendation. One of the things that's bringing me a lot of joy and happiness these days is this show called The Detroiters on Crave. Have we talked about Detroiters last week? Did we talk
last
about
episode? Yeah,
we did. Okay.
We said how you compared the guys to me and Shane, which we thought was a compliment.
That's right, of course. Sorry.
Yeah.
I've been telling everybody about the show, but they're two ad men, and all they do is like sit around pitching ads. Have you watched any of it?
And they're terrible at their job. Yeah, it reminds you of Mike and I. Yes, we know it. Yes, we got to see it.
Sorry, guys. I remember now. Okay, Shane Surprise.
Let's do it.
Okay, so this one might actually be dated now, and I know
we cut you off last week, and you're like, well, "You're going to do this next week, right?" And you had that look in your eye. We're like, "Yeah."
2 weeks in a row, you did this to me. So
okay, 2 weeks
because the first week I was ready to do this, you hadn't seen the Bee Gees doc. So then we passed the Shane Surprise on to the next week when you had, but we ran out of time or whatever. So now this is related to the Bee Gees doc.
Okay.
So I wanted to talk about again, this might not fly at all, but it's the idea of Barry Gibb being the coolest sibling and arguably the most attractive sibling.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get your opinion or tips on the responsibility of being the cooler or arguably more attractive sibling on advice to those people. I'll start with you, Mike.
It's Greg Veerman, my brother, here to talk apparently about being the cooler sibling.
Man, I was just gonna say the only advice I have, it's tough being the cooler older sibling, Guys, I'm out of here. I gotta go.
All right. Yeah, we tried something, and you know what,
Greg, were you waiting?
That's
last
why you shouldn't
week,
try things
on the call, and then
for
Shane had to
hours.
cancel on you?
Hours. Yeah, he was on the line for an hour and a half.
All I want to do is talk about how cool and handsome I am, and you keep fucking this up for me. Over Max, you keep going on rants. Apparently, I don't know. Shane you don't let Shane speak anymore.
Oh God!
Justice for Shane. Free Shane.
Sure,
Justice
man.
for Shane. Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of freeing, I was just gonna ask if you guys have watched that Free Britney doc yet.
No, Alex started watching it yesterday, but I have to see it. Is it any good?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. But I just feel like Mike and Max have a conservatorship over Shane right now, and I'm saying free Shane. Let me speak. I want those desserts back because you guys are dictating what happens. And
actually, I'll throw this out into the world because I could research this on the side, but Ash was watching the Free Britney doc last night. And there's an Arkells fan in British Columbia named Achilles, and he's sort of part of like the Arkells like stan world. He's like super into our band. We've had him on stage. He wears the jacket. He dances around. He makes some like home videos of Arkells like from shows and stuff. I think he opens the documentary. I could be wrong. And I've only met him in real life a couple times, but the first person you see interviewed as a fan and a concerned fan of Britney, I think is Achilles. I could be wrong. So if it's not you, then I'm sorry.
Is Achilles the guy that wears the tassel jacket in the interview?
Yeah.
He was like this the whole time?
Yeah.
And it says Free Britney.
Greg, I heard you liked the weekend performance. You came up earlier in the pod.
I did like it. I thought it was great.
What does it mean?
What does what mean?
What does it mean? The message he was trying to send across?
Oh, I didn't take any kind of message from it. I just thought it was done really cool. It was like I thought it was, I don't know if Max told you what I said, but I just thought it was more cool than it was like, spectacular for like a Super Bowl performance. They're always so big and over the top and kind of like insane, but that was just like a way more like, it was really cool. It was shot really well. Everything was done in a cool way. And I was saying that The Weeknd is just kind of an odd character because no one really knows The Weeknd. So it just felt like the most kind of like personal. Like he was just like staring into the camera a bunch. I was like, I never really like looked at The Weeknd this long. I don't know much about him. His personality came through, like more of him just wanting to be an entertainer and entertain millions of people came through than I think his persona and who he portrays is like a lot more, he's kind of a private guy. You don't really know much about him. So that was the most I kind of like got from him by watching the performances. This guy loves to do this and he was great at it. It was really cool. Have you guys seen
that Twitter account, ladies and gentlemen? It's The Weeknd. It's got over 100,000 followers, and it's literally just Daniel Craig from his SNL episode introducing The Weeknd. But he does it in such like a happy relief that every Friday someone just tweets out the clip where he goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, The Weeknd." And so you're supposed to get excited for The Weeknd every Friday. This account tweets out this fucking clip, and it's got a lot of followers. One last question, Greg, before we let you go. Over these last couple of weeks, whenever you've been waiting to get into this chat to spring this hilarious surprise that you're the older, better-looking brother, what do you do to kill your time? Are you just reading a book? Can you hear what we're saying at least, or are you just sitting there staring at a wall?
No, Shane Shane is like, don't worry, I control the Zoom, who gets in, who gets out. He's like, I'll let you know. I'll give you a call 2 minutes before it comes in. You can hear me on the phone before I intro you so that to queue you up. And then, last week the phone call never came. And I was like, I got meetings. I got things to do today. And then he's like, shit, he's like, Max is literally talking forever right now. He's like, we're supposed to be before 2 or something. And he's like, I don't know. Are you good with this time? And it kept getting pushed back 20 minutes as Max kept going. And then I was like, I can't do it. So then this week he's like, are you ready? So then now I've been sitting here for the last 15 minutes, just waiting to get brought in. And in that time I was reading Twitter. I kept making sure my hair was okay so that,
Your hair looks really good.
I was looking as hunky as possible. Just overthinking of it. It gave me too much time to overthink it, so that when I came in, my bit was a little fumbled and didn't work.
Well, the Zoom delay is comedy poison, so
yeah.
Very true. All right, guys. Get back to it.
See you later.
all right.
You're leaving too, Max.
Yeah, I think we should all leave.
Are we all
There was
leaving?
probably a laugh there before that we can get
Okay,
out on.
probably. All right.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Cue the music.